Right, welcome to Ask GMBN. I'm outside today, which is very nice, been riding. You guys have been submitting your questions via our video comments sections below all our videos, below Ask from last week. So I'm going to try and help you out with some answers. So I'll start with the first question, and that one comes from Jordan McCann. And this is about the bike packing video that me and Blake just did. And he says, would a backpack be okay for an epic? Blake did actually wear one for that video. So we only rode 25 miles a day, so it wasn't a massive ride out. But personally, I like to put everything on my bike as much as I possibly can. So we had a couple of big bags, those Toe Peak mid-loader, and then one out the back for tent, sleeping bag, food and kit. And then I can just ride. I don't get a sweaty back. I don't really like having a super heavy backpack, but I do wear a backpack for shorter rides, so enduro style rides. So yes, absolutely fine, but personally I'd rather not. Right, next one, Akatoni Zapkin. What's the point of switching a bike computer to miles instead of kilometers? So again, in that video, we did it in miles, just because it was a nice round number. And also on my longest day solstice ride, I did that in miles because it was a 100-mile ride. But normally I use kilometers and meters climb for my day-to-day rides, basically because that's what most cyclists do. It's tradition from road cycling to use kilometers. But in the UK, we do miles an hour on the road in the cars, so a lot of people do understand their miles a bit better. But just to make it clear in those videos, just because they're nice round numbers, the distances. Right, Jed Graham, I ride where there are no ski lifts, so I have to climb. I'm going to convert to a one by. What chain ring do you recommend? I would say probably about a 32. That's about as small as I would personally go. And actually most bike suspension designs are designed around a 32 chain ring to make the suspension work really nicely. So you can go a bit bigger than that if you go for one of the wider range cassettes. So if you go for an 1150 like the Eagle, or 1050 even, you could go for something maybe like a 34, but I would say 32 is probably right for most people. Okay, Boston Cheney says, in a couple of weeks I'll be riding up in Whistler. Nice. All I have is a cross-country type hardtail. Any suggestions for trails? I need Blake for that one. But I do know there's a lot of good trails in the valley, so away from all the ski lifts. I've ridden some amazing trails. I think it's called the River Run Through It. Some really technical, quite flat cross-country trails in the valley. There's definitely loads to be found. Get yourself a trail map, and I'm sure there's some trails that aren't on that map as well. Right, next question comes from the Real Galaxy. My bike is making sound from the chain. It's coming from the gears. I don't know how to fix it, the problem, as I'm young and broke. What can I do? You might have a problem there. It could well be that your chain is worn. I would say probably the first thing to do is to take your bike to a shop and ask them kindly if they can measure your chain, see if it's worn, and then you can make a plan of attack from there. Because if the chain and cassette is worn, it doesn't make any difference if you just replace the chain. You've got to replace the chain and the cassette at very least, possibly the chain rings as well, which isn't very cheap. But you can get, you know, entry-level group sets, Shimano or SRAM. So that is going to be probably the way to fix it. But I would definitely just ask the bike shop first to check if it's actually worn. That would be my suspicion. Okay, the Rosa 63 is wondering if you can do most of the same tricks your mountain bike as a BMX. I see a lot of BMX bikes in the skate park videos, but hardly see anyone riding a mountain bike. Just wondering if it's because it's harder to do stunts with them. Possibly a little bit harder. Skate parks are definitely better to ride on BMXs just because smaller wheels, fitting the transitions a little bit better, and you can throw them around. So for things like tail whips, 360s, those bikes do spin a lot better. But with a mountain bike, you get a bit more room for sort of messing things up, so you can over-rotate, under-rotate, and you get a bit more forgiveness with those bikes. But they're definitely more suited to dirt, I think, personally. So for bigger dirt jumps, I do prefer riding a mountain bike. That's all down to personal preference. But you see a lot of those slopestyle riders doing pretty big tricks on those mountain bikes. So I don't necessarily think they're harder to do the tricks. If you want to see how to get better on a BMX track, follow this link. Corners on BMX and pump tracks are often really hard dirt, concrete or tarmac like this one is here today. So you'll find there's a certain amount of grip, actually quite a lot. But once you've found that level of grip, you really can't go any faster. So this is all about trying to find the ultimate line to find the fastest way around the corner. Another question about pumping. Sam L says, I've been told to use too much arms when it comes to pumping and not enough legs. Any tips on breaking the habit? Just practice really. Have a look at a video of yourself if you can. Get your mate to video yourself on your phone and really look about using your hips and trying to put pressure through your feet. So at the bottom of the pump, it should feel like your pedals are really pushing into the soles of your shoes. If that's not happening, it's probably again doing too much from the arms, and you'll find that when you get your legs, you really start using more of your body weight and you'll actually become much faster when pumping. So keep practicing. Carlet OB 721. The pump track has improved my riding a lot, but I still have issues in jumping. I'm not able to spot where I'm landing. So when do I have to start looking at the landing? I think really as soon as you've taken off. So you've done the work on takeoff, you've pumped, you've driven the bike up the takeoff, and as soon as you're in the air, really get looking at it. And that's gonna then sort of bring you into that next motion of pulling the bike up and then trying to match the angle of that landing. So really just as soon as possible. Buck Rogers, any special setup tips or requirements when it comes to suspension, tyres, pressures, etc. for riding pump tracks? I really think just try and go harder for most things. So definitely with tyre pressure. If you're railing berms and they're hard pack or something like tarmac, you can really put a lot of force through your bike. And if that tyre's not hard enough, you'll feel it starting to roll. And if it's really soft, you'll actually roll that tyre off. So I'd go up to something 30, maybe even 40 PSI. Suspension, you can go up again a little bit, but I wouldn't say you necessarily have to. I think it's more about the tyres for that one. Edoken90 has got a question about our bike packing video. It says, how did you deal with the fact that your bikes could have been stolen? If you've seen the video, we've got those Topic bike camper tents that actually use the bike as the tent poles. So you strap the tent over the bike and the front wheel goes in the end of the tent to hold it up. So obviously your bike is part of the tent. So in that situation, it's a super family-friendly campsite in the middle of nowhere. So we actually asked someone to look after our bikes. When we did go to the pub, which was only about half a mile away, but our next door neighbour in the campsite kept an eye on them. But yeah, the fact is, yeah, they're not particularly secure if you do that. But actually those tents are so easy to set up. It literally was a case of, I don't know, less than 10 minutes to set the actual tent up. So future, or if you were staying somewhere where it wasn't quite so secure, you could definitely just do that really quickly once you're finished, once you've had your dinner and got back to the campsite. So if you want to see that video, it's up there now. So I've got a couple more questions about the bike packing video. Bad and Wrong says, do you have to disassemble those bikes after riding through that salt water? Yeah, so in the video, me and Blake actually ride down, that's actually an estuary, so it's fresh water. So really, no, we didn't, to be honest, because it was fresh water. It's no worse than riding on a wet ride, to be honest, so just normal maintenance. Did clean the chains after we came off the beach, to be fair, because they were quite salty, quite sandy. So it did sound like they were wearing themselves away. But riding through fresh water, yeah, it's coming up onto the wheels a bit and probably the bottom bracket, but it wasn't any worse than a normal wet ride. So yeah, definitely if we'd gone into salt water, I would probably have done a pretty in-depth service after doing that, because it is going to eat away at any bearings. Henrik L asked, do you have to put any more pressure in your suspension for that type of riding? Actually, surprisingly, I didn't. I rode my Canyon XC, my hardtail, so obviously there's no rear suspension. And I think I had about, I can't remember, I said about 12 kilos worth of weight extra on the bike, but actually the fork dealt with it really well. I could potentially put a little bit more in, but I didn't feel like I needed to. And I wasn't riding the bike hard, so even if I was sagging in a bit more, it really wouldn't matter. On a full suspension bike, you probably would, I think, on the rear shock. Sean Madley, did Blake ever feed the horse? No, he didn't. They were too shy. Tim Garland, is that a dead squirrel on Blake's handlebars? No, that's Blake's selfie kit. Blake loves a selfie. So that is just one of these things, one of these fluffs that goes over the microphone to stop the wind noise. That's it. If you want to see that bike packing video, definitely click over there for that one. And if you want to see a recent how-to video, click over there for that one. So that BMX track skills, give us a thumbs up and definitely leave your questions down below this video or any of our videos, and we'll try and get back to you. Hit that sub button.